Today I want to talk about Ibram Kendi and his movement of anti-racism. I'm a huge fan. Huge. Except there's always that except, right? Me personally, he doesn't go far enough. Kendi's only run a half marathon. I'm finishing it off for him. I'm not anti-racist. I'm super anti-racist. For the anti-racist, all disparities between races is a result of systemic racism. So, for example, if there are more Asian engineers at Google than blacks, you guessed it, that, my friends, is racism. If there are more tenured professors in the university system with white skin than blacks and Latinos combined, how could that be anything but a demonstration of the systemic racism that has plagued America since before its founding? The whole basis of America, of course, is systemic racism. Now, somebody might point out that there are more white male homeless people in the United States than any other race. The anti-racists, of course, choose to ignore this little fact. It's only the positive things that they want equity for. Not equity across the board, only with the positive. It's kind of like the females not complaining about the CEO jobs not being divided up equally, but not about the bricklayer jobs. No, 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 no. What about the lumberjacks? They don't want those jobs. They're hot and sweaty. Now, as a super anti-racist, we finish off the marathon. Kendi, you just passed the baton to me at the halfway mark. I'm going to finish the race for you. You see, we super anti-racists, we look in the crevices and we dig up the examples that Kendi has somehow overlooked. I understand it, Ibram. You've got a lot on your plate. It's up to us super anti-racists to finish the job for you. And let me tell you that our goal is to move the world into a more harmonious frequency, to add to the love of the world by demanding an active rectification of these injustices that have been plaguing the world. Yeah. How many guys dream of growing up to be like Mike? How many men dream of playing in the NBA? I certainly did. I wanted to play point guard for the Golden State Warriors like Steph Curry. You know why I didn't make it? Clearly, systemic racism. Look, just check out these statistics. While African Americans comprise 13% of the population of the United States, the NBA, it's 75% black. Of the 500 dream positions, blacks account for 375 of them. True equity, that number should be 65. That means if the number was 80, I wouldn't really think about it. Even at 100, I'd be like, damn, those brothers, they love the ball. But if that number was 60 instead of 65, good old Ibram Kendi would want that rectified instantaneously. So, as a super anti-racist, with 75% of the NBA jobs going to a mere 13% of the population, how could that be anything but systemic racism? There is no other plausible explanation according to Ibram Kendi's logic. And just for the record, the odds that this injustice is random statistically is greater than 1 in 1 billion. That means you're about 20 times more likely to win the average lottery than explaining this obvious systemic racism away. Again, mathematically, there is no other explanation. So what's the solution? It's obvious. We super anti-racists believe that if Americans truly want equity, we must redistribute some of those jobs immediately and hand them not only to whites, but to Asians and Latinos, proportionately, based on their population figures. How many Asians have there been in the NBA, for example? What, Jeremy Lin and Yao Ming? how many are currently playing in the league. That's a hate crime. That's a hate crime against Asians. What about Latino people? Manu Ginobili from Argentina? He's not even in the league anymore. Once again, a hate crime. Mark Cuban, pay attention. Look, the NBA is obviously racist to more than just white people. How do you feel, Latinos and Asians out there? And what about, how does it represent Jewish women around the world? Huh? That means Joel Embiid times up. Please hand your job as Sixers center, as well as your paycheck, to my 90-year-old Jewish grandmother. Because what we're after is equity, right? And you racists in the NBA want to keep your meritocratic principles in play while so many others are suffering. When so many others dream of playing in the league, including my grandmother, who is a big fan of the game. Do you realize that your selfishness and your racism has cost me my dream of playing in the league? I always dreamed of bearing a three in Steph Curry's face, of stealing the ball from him and going up for a dunk and likely being pinned on the rim. And yeah, that might happen. But if we want equity, then we have to be able to accept that there are going to be people that are not as good in the tenured positions, in the most viable and desirable jobs. And so Mark Cuban, sure, you might have given Dirk Nowitzki and Luka Doncic their jobs, but the rest of the Mavericks team is still heavily overrepresented by blacks. Many standard deviations away from what should be the statistical norm. And that, Mark, is why you need to hire me as your new starting point guard. Because unless you do, my group of super anti-racists will run boycotts on Mav ticket sales. We will cancel your advertisers. And it's for valid reasons. Because of the mathematically provable racist hiring practices and harm that you've caused Asians, Latinos, and whites over the years. But Mark Cuban, I'm talking to you and your Mavericks organization. You do have a way out. I know that you're begging and pleading. So here it is. Sign me as your new starting point guard and publicly grovel for your past racism. Promise to give 1.5% of your net revenues to my super anti-racist law center so that we can use the proceeds, of course, to then go and implore other organizations to end their racist behaviors. You'll be making the world a far better place. And we'll offer you momentary forgiveness for your past sins. For those of you who wish to be on the right side of history, the right side of the agenda, to feel morally superior to others, there is a Bitcoin link in the description where you can contribute yourself to the Super Anti-Racist Law Center. Please share this video if you enjoyed it and make sure to get that donation in. Thumb it up. The video. Peace and blessings.